Welcome back to Albus Explains. I'm Albus and this is Let's Talk. The topic for today is pursuit of happiness. A certain declaration of independence in this world has the line, quote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty and the pursuit of happiness." Now I absolutely agree with a little more than 80% of the quote, but the line, pursuit of happiness, I have an opinion on that. I believe that it is a stupid and ignorant line, and let me explain myself. It assumes that the ultimate aim of a human being is happiness. All works, arts, all endeavors must funnel their way into happiness, and if not, they are worthless or rather unworthy. Even the earlier two rights of life and liberty must find their way into happiness, otherwise they are worthless. I believe they are fine just by themselves, but yet, if any object, action, feeling doesn't end in happiness, it is either not the end yet or it is simply wrong. When you believe all things sprout out of happiness and it is where it shall go back to, as a country, an organization, or even as an individual, you should pursue happiness blindly as the future consequence, because that is what now sets the benchmark for success. The success of your life is now dependent upon how happy you are. But this is patently untrue. The society is not meant to pursue happiness. Not that it shouldn't be happy, obviously I am not saying that. Simply that happiness should not be its ultimate objective. I can say that with some air because I know for a fact that this pursuit cannot encapsulate opposition. If two entities both have a divine right to pursue happiness, but their parameters for happiness are different, or to spice it up, actually in the opposite directions, then what? What if one derives happiness from the pain and suffering of the other? This means that it is incompatible. There is no divine right to happiness. The success of a person is not measured by happiness simply because happy does not mean successful. Correlation does not mean causation. Sure, success may bring you happiness or the opportunities to be happy, but success itself does not present to people who are pursuing bliss. All the successful people you know were or are solving problems. They are jumping, rather diving, headfirst into the problems of this world and facing difficulties and beating them. And there is nothing happy about that, yet they do it. And that is the origin of their success and fulfillment, not happiness. Putting the pursuit of happiness as one of the fundamental rights will essentially ensure that all endeavors of that country and its citizens shall forever feel hollow. Even proper fulfillment cannot be obtained via happiness. Both are mutually exclusive domains. The technical word for happiness is mania, and a happy person is a maniac, literally. Let's take it further. What if you bang your head and end up believing you are a horse? You can now live the rest of your life thinking you are a very happy, very content horse, or you can go in for therapy and medicine and return to the melancholic human world. What would you choose? Let's raise the stakes. What if that happened to someone you love and now you have to take that decision for them? Would you wish upon them the sorrows of this world in the stead of this mental bliss? Your decision will shape that person's future. Would you prefer a horse or your loved one back? Would you trade your loved one for a happy horse? It is not easy, but it is simple, isn't it? The choice seems hard, but obvious. On fulfillment, it comes from taking charge by having someone to answer to, doing what you can do best with the highest skill that you possess towards something. Fulfillment comes from working with an aim. The only way to proper fulfillment is taking responsibility. Even if done badly, you will have the whole world supporting you in a pantheistic sort of a way, and you would never trade mania for it, would you? I was in a cocky mood once, and my mother was telling me to go study, and I, to avoid that and basically waste time, was arguing with her on the ethics of studying. I didn't like to study, mainly because it was boring, which I even told her. But she still told me to go do it anyway for good marks, even if it bored me. I suddenly point blank asked her If it came down to one or the other, what would she wish upon me? Success or happiness? I thought I had got her. Because she loves me, so how can she choose something that will not make me happy? I was grinning like an idiot when she came close to my face and said, "Your happiness is a bonus. Your happiness is a byproduct. Your life might be drowned in sorrow, but if that leads you to becoming a great man, then I will let it go in an instant." She had weighed her words. I knew what she was saying was putting a stress on her, but she was clear, and her clarity reflected on me. My smile faded as I saw her solemn expression, and she again promptly told me to go study. I was just beaten at my own game, and accepting the loss with as much grace a 11-year-old could muster, I walked to my room and sat to study. There I thought, what she said shook me. I wanted to take what she said superficially and act like she didn't really love me or something stupid like that. But I knew for a fact that she loved me, and obviously her first preference would have been for me to have both. But when pushed, she was clear, and that piece of wisdom became the motto of my life as well. Now, on a lighter note, I love movies. It makes me feel like I am there with the hero. I am the hero, and I have to fight the monster, or it is I who has to go on the treacherous path. I used to think on it as a kid, but I had never figured out why I loved that feeling. I concluded that because in the end, everything was happy and the hero got the girl, and I wanted myself to be in that hero's place at that time, with my arm around that girl, I related to him. But now I know why. It was because of my desire to fight the perceived evil, to face dangers and overcome them. That was the attractive component, not the end. Because if that bliss was the aim, if that bliss was the selling point for the tickets, why would any storyteller would put a conflict in his story? And if that was the case, there would be no conflict in the movie. But there is conflict in the movies, and there are movies, or rather stories, which may or may not have a happy ending, but there is not a single story in the world that has no conflict. Which means that conflict is deeper than the bliss, and even deeper than that is the desire to work that conflict. And for that, a direction towards non-conflict, towards bliss is taken. But that mental space, that result is ideal and hence never actually reachable. So one must always stay unhappy if by unhappy we mean his goals are not met. But it would mean that one is constantly trying to improve, and what could be better than that? The country with the pursuit of happiness as their motto has fathered an author who wrote its opposite. His name is Robert Browning, who best summarized what I am trying to say, and it is, "A man's reach should exceed his grasp, or what's a heaven for?" All this brings me to my final story, the story of Voltaire and the Hindu, written by Voltaire, obviously. Voltaire was one of the New Age writers during the French Revolution, along with Montesquieu and Rousseau. If you paid attention in high school, you will remember them. I have put a link in the description if anyone wants to read it themselves. It is a short story and you should read it yourself, but here's a humble summary by me. Voltaire comes to India and meets a philosopher. The philosopher, as all philosophers are, goes on and on about his discoveries or lack thereof to Voltaire, and is basically complaining. The philosopher tells him that he has been pursuing big questions like the true nature of the universe and the reason for existence for over 40 years, and he still thinks, quite humbly so, that he has not even scratched the surface of the answer, and that makes him sad. Just then, an old woman, a neighbor of the philosopher, walks by singing, following a herd of goats she owned into her house. Voltaire smiles and asks the philosopher why he concerns himself with such a burden while here, right next to him, is an automaton, fully happy, not even knowing that there exists a world outside the boundaries of her village. Very happy by herself, enjoying life to the fullest. Why doesn't he, the philosopher too, let go of this sorrowful pursuit and simply be happy? The philosopher smiles and answers, "Happiness was never the pursuit of my life. it was knowledge. I picked a higher goal of attaining knowledge, and if in that path I should meet unhappiness and despair, then so be it. I shall welcome it. The happiness you speak of is ephemeral and bestial, no different than the happiness of goats on seeing green grass. I am a human, and in my pursuit, even if I fail, my fulfillment of this life shall be in the knowledge that I tried my best. End of story. Hope I could explain my perspective without any obvious errors. Thank you for listening.